Today we will be doing a chromatography experiment. Chromatography is a branch of chemistry that deals with the separation of mixtures using a solvent. In a typical chromatography experiment, you will have some type of plate to put your dyes or mixtures into. This can be anything from a coffee filter, paper towel, to a chromatography paper. You will also need some type of ink, like that and a pen or marker. Finally, you will need some type of jar or container and a solvent like water or rubbing alcohol. The solvent is what will separate the component dyes in the ink. Chromatography works because of something called polarity. Polarity is when your molecule or dye has a negative end and a positive end. This can occur to different degrees or intensities. In chromatography, the plate or coffee filter is going to be more polar than the solvent. As a result, the more polar dyes will be more attracted to the coffee filter than the less polar dyes. The difference in polarity will cause the less polar dyes to move further up the coffee filter and the more polar dyes to move a smaller distance. To help you calculate the polarity of the dye, you can calculate an RF value, which is the movement of the dye over the movement of the solvent. The higher the RF value, the less polar the dye is. The lower the RF value, the more polar the dye is. In chromatography, the dyes separate from the ink because some of the dyes within the ink will be more polar or less polar and will therefore be more or less attracted to the paper. For today's chromatography experiment, we will be making chromatography snowflakes. For this experiment, you will need coffee filters, several different colored markers, a round bowl, isopropyl or water, tape, and scissors. If you want to test your dyes to see what they will look like before you put them on your snowflake, you can also use a jar and a pencil. To begin our experiment, you will need to take one of your coffee filters. You may want to put a piece of paper behind because when you begin to write on it, it may bleed through. Take whatever color of marker you would like and color loose about a centimeter to an inch away from the edge of the coffee filter. You can pick whatever color and use as many different colors as you want, but be sure to make a thick line and make sure that you put plenty of ink on the paper. You can change colors and you can make multiple lines across the outside of your paper. You can also color around the inside, and you can flip the paper and it will also lead towards the outside. When you get done, your paper should look something like this. If you want to see what the inks will separate into, you can also take a jar, like this one, fill it full of water or isopropyl, either one, cut your coffee filter into strips, draw a little bit on the bottom, but about the same away from the bottom. Wrap it around a pencil or marker and tape it. You then put it in the jar. You want the bottom of the paper to touch the liquid. So if you don't have enough, you can add some more. You only want the bottom of your slip of paper to be in the water. If you wait several minutes, it will begin to rise up the paper. If you were to calculate the RF values, you would want to stop before it got to the top of got to the pencil. Next, once you finish coloring your coffee filter, you can fold it up. You can fold it as small as you want or as big as you want. Take your scissors and cut it so that it becomes a snowflake. Be careful with the scissors not to cut yourself. Once you're done cutting your snowflake, you can unfold it and take your round bowl and fill it with either isopropanol or water. Place your snowflake with the edges down and place them in the isopropanol or water. You don't want your water to be deep enough that it touches the ink, but just so that the edges are covered. You'll have to wait several minutes, and when you get done, you can flip it so that the inside is in the water, and it will also bleed the other way. When that is done, your snowflake should look something like this. As you can see, the ink separates, and in this one, there was blue dye in the ink, and then there was also purple, and the blue hardly moved at all, but the purple went up. This means that the blue dye is more polar than the purple dye. The same is with this blue and green. The blue is more polar than the blue. The green is more polar than the blue. The same with the yellow. I hope you had fun today, and hope you make lots of snowflakes.